Tell us who you are, sir.
My name is Curtis Meloy. I live in Texarkana, Texas, and
You were in Berlin in the U.S. Army?
yes, sir. I was in Army Military Police in Berlin from April of 1980 to February of 1982. Assigned to the 287th MP Company, Berlin Brigade, 2nd Platoon.
And what were your duties like there, Curtis?
They were really unique. Of course, I worked patrol, worked the stockade whenever we'd have prisoners over there periodically. And of course, the infamous Checkpoint Charlie, worked that quite often. We all did 12-hour shifts. Checkpoint Bravo, and then in June of 80, or 81, excuse me, I was assigned to the duty train and worked that for 6 months. And as far as assignments, I would say that kind of topped it all because the duty train was just so unique. You met so many people from around the world.
Well, tell us about the duty train. What was that all about?
Well, there was only 3 routes in and out of Berlin. You could take a flight, drive on a certain routed autobahns through East Germany, or the duty train. And there was also a French and British duty train also. But you had 2 MPs, a transportation train commander, transportation train conductor, and a radio operator that were American soldiers. And then in Berlin, we had a Berliner train conductor, civilian, going through East Germany. It was an East German train conductor would climb on. Then whenever we got to Marienborn, he would get off. And then once we went through the security zone, the West German train conductor would get on and ride with us down to Frankfurt. And of course, going through East Germany, they had to disconnect the electric engine and connect the steam engine. And so that was just really unique. Also worked the supply train that brought in all the supplies to Berlin by rail. Sometimes those rail cars, trains would be 60, 80 cars long, and you had a caboose halfway through and then one at the end. And you had 4 MPs on that. And never had a problem with the supply train had the lowest priority. So we would sit on the side of the track for some time. But it was interesting. It really was. It was very a unique duty. I cherish it and have very fond memories of the working the duty train.
So you really had an understanding that you were living on an island in the middle of...
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, big time. It was just a quick funny story. One time our caboose was on a supply train, and we were taking stuff back, and our heater ran out of fuel. Well, I had a little short MP with me by the name of Joe Painter. He's not a member of our group, but I'm trying to get him to join. And we waited and waited, thinking the train was going to take off any time. Well, finally, we were just freezing. So he jumps off the train, starts filling it up with the jerry can. About that time, the train starts moving. He's got little bitty short legs. He's running as fast as he can to catch up with that train. I end up snagging him up by his pistol belt and pulling him in, and his legs are dangling, still running. And I mean, I talk to him periodically, and we laugh about that story every time we think about it. So, but there was a lot of really good times. I mean, unfortunately, there were some bad times, escorting prisoners down to Mannheim and stuff like that. But it was all good.
Was there anything about the period of time that you were there, internationally or locally, that made it different or stand out?
I think it was just the presence of where we knew we were so far inside East Germany. There was no turning back. Basically, we knew we would be supported, but would the support get to us in time? Probably not. Probably dare say now that it's all said and done, our gooses were cooked. But we all had a fighting spirit. We trained hard, worked hard, and on our off time we played hard. but we were just young kids back then, 19, 20-year-old kids.
You were single.
Yes, sir. I was single, but if you would have called me a kid back then, we would have had words, but we were just young kids. And some of us MPs have talked about over the years that how dare the Army leave law enforcement responsibilities to 19 and 20-year-old kids that were still wet behind the ears and were probably bigger troublemakers than half the criminals we ran across. But it's a joke with us, but it is something you think about, But it was the time. It was in the middle of the Cold War. I did not think the wall would ever come down. From my tour in Berlin, I was in South Korea whenever the wall come down, working CQ, and I will never forget seeing the people climbing the wall. And my Katusa, a CQ runner, was watching the news or a sports game, I don't remember, and had him flip at the AFN, and I mean, tears were rolling down my eyes. And some of the fellow troops were asking me why I was crying. I said, well, if you've never been to Berlin, you would not understand. It is one of the most unique privileges to serve in that city of any duty station I've served over 10 and a half years.
Did you get to meet any Germans? Did you?
Yes, sir. I was very, very fortunate. If people were in Berlin or worked around Charlie Checkpoint in the 80s, the mid 80s, knew Mama Rosinger from the embassy stand there at Charlie Checkpoint. I met her one day, one of the first tours there at Checkpoint Charlie, invited me out to dinner on my first day off, and they just adopted me. And whenever I say adopted, I mean I was part of the family. I went to Hohenfels to support the infantry for 30 days. Come back, they gave me keys to their house, had bought me a bed and put in the back bedroom. And here's what that mama told me whenever she gave me the keys to the house. She said, come and go as you please. Your friends are our friends. This is your house. And I'm still in touch with the two girls. Unfortunately, the son that was a little younger than me has passed away, and Mama and Papa both had passed away. But I spent 3 days with my oldest German sister while we were in the city for the Busma reunion last year, and it was just a sweet, sweet reunion. I mean, we talk on FaceTime and stuff, but it's not the same as putting your arms around your little sister, So when they call me big brother and I call them little sister, and it's just a really, really sweet. And that's probably even more so than the duty train, the relationship I had with the Rosinger family over those years. And still to this day, when we're talking 40 plus years, and I'm still in touch with them and still love them.
If you talk to people who served in Berlin who are not members of Berlin U.S. Military Veterans Association, what do you tell them about the value in becoming a member?
One of the biggest values is learning the history of Berlin prior and after our particular tours. Vernon Pike, I mean, he's just a walking encyclopedia of the 58s and the early 60s of Berlin. You got George Poole, who's another walking encyclopedia of history in the early 60s, and so many others that seen the wall come up in the different stages. While in the 80s, of course, we had the infamous Berlin Wall that everyone's familiar with, but people aren't really knowledgeable of the fact that it originated with just a barbed wire strands. And these guys have seen that history, the history of Steinstücken, the island that within an island, and how we would protect those citizens because they wanted to be free and didn't want to be part of the communist regime. And we surrounded them and took care of them.
What about the reunions that you have here? How do you feel about attending those?
The Busma reunions I've been a member since 2014. This is my fourth reunion. 2016 was my first, 23 in Vancouver, and then Berlin last year, and here in Orlando this year. And the camaraderie between all of the soldiers, their wives, families, it's just another adopted family. And We have some close bonds. Some of us talk down through the year, some don't. But we know whenever we see each other at our reunions, we'll pick up right where we left off. And that is true camaraderie.
Curtis, thank you very much for sitting down with us and talking.
Yes, sir.